to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'll open up the public hearing. A public hearing on 2 ordinance amendments that have been proposed through the Township's Planning Commission. Madam Chair, do you want to take both ordinance amendments at the same time, potentially at one public hearing, or do you want to address each ordinance amendment separately, have one hearing, close out the hearing, and then do a second hearing for each? Separately. So we'll begin then with the ordinance amendment for the proposed gas compression regulation first. This is the Planning Commission Special Counsel Michael Deal, he's prepared some exhibits. I'm going to turn it over to him to take the laboring order and introduce what the Planning Commission has proposed this evening, together with the notice requirements that he's prepared to satisfy state law, hearing this public hearing. I'm going to turn it over to him. We'll deal with the gas compression regulation ordinance amendment first, close out the hearing, and then start a second hearing on the anaerobic digester amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Good evening, members of the board, members of the public. My name is Michael Gill, Special Counsel to the Township Planning Commission with regard to matters involving regional anaerobic digester regulation. As Mr. Brown pointed out, we have 2 ordinances. The first of those, 2 proposed ordinances. The first of those is an amendment to the zoning ordinance to regulate gas compression stations in the township. That ordinance would allow for gas compression stations in the industrial zoning district, the I-2 general industrial zoning district, and we have the following exhibits to introduce into the record of the hearing. The first is T1, an email to the Reading Eagle dated July 10, 2025 by my colleague, Zach Morano, providing the Reading Eagle with public notice of this hearing. T2 is a copy of that public notice. T3 is proof of publication of this hearing, which ran on July 14th and July 21st of this year in the Reading Eagle. T4 is a letter to the Berks County Planning Commission dated June 26, 2025. T5 is the Berks County Planning Commission review. Excuse me. Yeah. The T5 is the Berks County Planning Commission review dated July 15, 2025. T6 is a letter by Mr. Morano to the Berks County Law Library dated July 10, 2025. And T7 is a copy of the proposed ordinance amendment itself. Unless there's any objection, we will mark those and make those part of the record of this hearing, or at least we'll recommend they make it up. Are you amenable to making those part of the record of the hearing?
So we'll just let the record reflect that they're part of the record. All of those documents are available at the Township Building for public inspection upon request.
So the ordinance again allows for gas compression stations as a conditional use in the I-2 General Industrial Zoning District, provided that no such gas compression station shall be located closer than 2,500 feet from the property line of any property with a structure utilized as a dwelling, school, daycare, nursing home, or retirement center or hospital. The ordinance also establishes a definition for gas compression station and a definition for trucking establishment. The ordinance contains a severability provision and provides that the ordinance shall be effective as provided by law. Caernarvon Township is a township of the second class, so if the board adopts the ordinance, it will be effective immediately upon adoption. hearing on the amendment to the zoning ordinance for the gas compression station regulation. And move to the second hearing.
Yes, we let the minutes reflect that hearing is closed. We'll open the new public hearing on the first amendment to the anaerobic digester. We'll ask Mr. Gill to take us through the exhibits that he prepared.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Again, we have 7 exhibits for this hearing. The first of those is an email from Mr. Morano in my office to the Reading Eagle on July 10th, 2025, providing notice of publication of this hearing. T2 is legal notice of the hearing. T3 is the proof of publication, confirming that notice of this hearing was provided on July 14, 2025 and July 21, 2025 in the Reading Eagle. T4 is a letter to the Berks County Planning Commission dated June 26, 2025. T5 is the review letter by the Berks County Planning Commission dated July 15, 2025. T6 is a letter by Mr. Morano to the Berks County Law Library dated July 10, 2025. And T7 is a copy of the proposed ordinance itself. This ordinance, excuse me. With this ordinance, the Planning Commission recommended that the Board of Supervisors repeal ordinance number 322 in its entirety and to replace ordinance number 322, which does now regulate regional anaerobic digesters, to replace that with this new ordinance to likewise regulate regional anaerobic digesters in Caernarvon Township. That use would be allowed in the effective agricultural preservation district, where it is currently allowed by conditional use, which is how it's currently allowed. The ordinance proposes changes to the minimum lot area for regional, this is a summary, not an exhaustive description of the ordinance, proposes changes to the minimum lot area for regional anaerobic digesters, makes changes to the information that an applicant for conditional use approval would need to submit with their conditional use application, provides for changes to setbacks for regional anaerobic digester operations, provides for the manner in which, changes in the manner in which biogas generated from a regional anaerobic digester would be transported from the subject property, as well as other changes to the zoning ordinance. If there are any questions about what the Planning Commission has proposed, I can address those on behalf of the Planning Commission. But again, the ordinance has been presented by the Planning Commission and recommended. It is the recommendation of the Planning Commission that the board should adopt this amendment.
Any questions from the audience?
Actually, so they passed it, I have not been read over the stuff. I'm not anything to comment, except move on our side to something that's not true. So no comment from me.
So I feel we need to send it back to planning for suggestions that Berks County had sent back to us, Berks County Planning Commission.
Okay. All right, we do have the Berks County Planning Commission letter. Is it the board's direction that the Township Planning Commission should take into account the comments in the July 15 letter and make suggested revisions to the repealer and reenacting ordinance itself?
Do you agree with that? Does everyone agree? Yes, we do.
Okay, all right, we can certainly do that.
All right, now I have comments. My name is Skip DeGarry. Skip DeGarry, I live in Elverson over here, and I have not seen the comments they sent back. But what I have seen is the email chain back and forth between Eric Brown and the same board up there in Berks County. and that here, this board didn't take any of those comments into effect when it came to instilling the original anaerobic digester. So I don't know what's in this to read it because I haven't seen it. It's difficult for me to say comments. But when none of the comments were taken in place and there was a hurry up and rush put on the board to make back and forth from, again, between Eric Brown and the Berks County Board to an artificial, they had 30 days and the back and forth was constantly, well, can you get it done? Can you get it done sooner? They needed, meaning this board needed it for a deadline. First set of comments came in. What that board said is they didn't even acknowledge our first set of recommendations, and they're asking for recommendations again. If they weren't acknowledged or used the first time they put them here, you have no obligation to use any of their comments, the way I understand it. You make the final decision. I hate to drag this process out. And so what I'm saying is, maybe let's think about this for a second. You instilled this amendment, this text amendment the first time without taking into consideration any of the recommendations they had. So nothing's changed, right? They sent recommendations again. Again, I'm a little blind because I can't see.
That's not true.
What's not true?
Your statement that when the original ordinance was enacted, none of these counties.
Well, their first set of recommendations wasn't based on what they put in emails back to you.
Suggestions weren't taken into consideration. It's not accurate. The statement that there's no obligation for the board to consider the planning commission's suggestions is accurate, but the board is aware of that.
All I know is the email chain between you and the Berks County Board. And they were under the belief, and they made the statement in the emails back and forth to you in your office, that they were dumbfounded why you didn't take into consideration any of the recommendations before the first recommendations they made, because they made two sets of recommendations to you all, what I read in that email chain back and forth. So again, I'm at the question, why are we dragging this out? You're not obligated to take these recommendations. I don't know what they are, but I feel kind of blindsided. I would, not on you guys, but I would have loved to have known it so I could be more educated when I came up before y'all. I don't want to drag it out. You don't sound like you want to drag it out. You're not obligated to take this. If everyone's happy with what's in there now, again, at least the first set of recommendations they gave you, the board in Berks County feels you did not take those recommendations. And I can pull up the emails and read it all verbatim if you guys would like.
It's not going to change
Okay.
the fact of where we are
Okay.
right now and why we want to hold off and do this right the first time. This time.
But then-
We want this.
so to
There's
me-
recommendations in there we want to follow.
Okay, but to me, you saying that you want to do it right makes it sound like you didn't do it right the last time. Now, and I'm not saying
We're
that.
coming back to it again. I mean, no one's perfect. This is all
No,
we
I'm
got.
not dissing you at all, any of you, at all. I have a question. This comes up all of a sudden. So I guess we got to do a right to know to see what the recommendations are and all that. So it's got to go back to the planning board, go through the planning board, come back to you, and if you take this position right now.
Yes.
Okay, that's all I can do is voice my opinion. So thank you for having a special thing to try to get it done, having this hearing.
Okay. Was there anyone else? Your name?
Katie Muth. I just wanted a point of clarification.
I'm sorry, can you please go up to the microphone?
Oh, absolutely.
Thank you. Can you say your name again, please?
Sure, Katie Muth, M-U-T-H last name. I'm a state senator in Elverson. I do not represent this township, but if you don't want me to speak, I won't do public comment since I'm not a resident, but I just wanted a point of clarification based on this gentleman's statement. So what are we reconsidering? Is it the county conservation district recommendations or the planning commissions?
Planning.
I just couldn't hear.
Planning.
Okay, so it's planning commission recommendations for this ordinance. And I commend you for taking up the previous vote. Not a lot of municipalities in Pennsylvania have the courage to make the decisions you've just made. And certainly commend you on this one as well, as it's becoming a very pervasive industry along with data centers. Separate topic, still problematic. But so you're going to table this and then reconvene. And can we see what what the planning commission? I just looked online prior to this meeting, couldn't find anything that I didn't have besides the ordinance draft. So is that publicly available for everyone here that are able to access that?
Yes.
The recommendations or
Yeah,
edits?
it's part of the exhibit package So it's,
Oh, I'm sorry if it was handed out before I got here.
no, I'm just saying, it's publicly.
So I can just come here and get a copy of it to this building tomorrow? Okay, thank you very much.
Will that be posted online?
I'm sorry, I need your name.
Jim Turbush,
Can you spell your last name?
Terbush. Will that letter from the Berks County Planning Commission be posted online?
There's no reason it can't be.
We can post it online. Yes.
Okay, great.
And I did definitely want to thank you all for that expeditious actions you guys took on the compressor station. Kudos to you all.
Anyone else? Okay, no one else?
Sorry.
I do have questions. Jonathan Ruggiero. Wait, can we go up to the mic, please? Stenographers over here. Jonathan Ruggiero. Sorry, it's very simple. When can we expect that documentation to be online?
Late morning tomorrow.
Great, thank you.
Anyone else? Anyone? Yeah.
Sorry, my name is Ginny Marcel Kurt. Can you hear me okay? Ginny Marcel Kurzlake. I'm not a resident of this township either. I just drove in from West Whiteland Township, but I've been following this closely. And I'm sorry I came in a few minutes late, but it sounds like you are delaying a vote tonight in order to consider some recommendations. Is that correct, on this second ordinance?
So I don't want to speak on behalf of the board of supervisors. I'm special counsel for the planning commission. So the planning commission had worked over the last couple of months to come up with a proposed amendment.
Yep.
Township already regulates regional anaerobic digesters. The planning commission recommended amendments to that ordinance in the nature of a complete repeal and then reenactment with the changes. The board of supervisors seemingly is going to send the ordinance back to the planning commission, the township planning commission, to consider the comments that the county planning commission made when the county planning commission reviewed what the township planning commission had proposed.
Okay, thank you. And I read the proposed amendment to the ordinance, and I commend you on your thoroughness and all the things brought forward to protect this community. The concern would be that if you delay a vote, I understand there's no application in place right now, but in the interim, before there is a vote, the applicant could resubmit their application.
I'm not going to take a position on that on behalf of the planning commission.
Anything's possible.
Certainly anything's possible, but again, right now, there is an ordinance governing, regulating anaerobic digesters. Number one. Number two, the board just enacted an amendment that's going to regulate gas compressors, both in terms of primarily where they're going to be located. And then to follow up on this review letter, maybe to lay a little bit of a foundation, on July 15th, the board received the Berks County Planning Commission's review letter. The review letter is maybe more substantive than what the board was expecting. 3 pages in length with 14 recommendations. And so I think what the board's indicated this evening is that they want the Planning Commission and its special counsel to go back and take a look at these 14 recommendations from the county and consider incorporating some of those recommendations into the pending amendment. So the Planning Commission, I believe, next meets on the 16th of the month. So that's what I think the board wants to task the planning commission with. So it will unfortunately delay the process a little bit, but the end result might be an ordinance that is even better. So there's no state secret of what the county planning commission has recommended. It should be available on the record. So it looks like the county will post that online.
But in the interim, the applicant could submit a new application, and these proposed protections would not apply to that application.
An applicant effect.
At that time.
Application is submitted.
Okay, so if those protections were passed tonight, they would be in place tonight or tomorrow? Okay.
Hi, it's Megan DeGarry, and Megan DeGarry, sorry, I'm not good with mics, I'm so loud.
It's on.
Could you hear me? Megan DeGarry is my name, thank you. I'm a resident of West Nantmel Township. What I would like to do is have you guys read us the letter. It's part of the hearing. We have not been able to see it, we have not been privy to it, but it is part of the hearing, so I feel like you should share it with us now, please, and go through the changes, proposed changes. Thank you.
Okay, would you like me to read the letter verbatim or give my synopsis of the letter?
Verbatim, please.
Okay, all right, that's fine. That might work.
I want to.
Okay. This is a letter dated July 15, 2025, from the Berks County Planning Commission to the Caernarvon Township Board of Supervisors. This is the same letter which is marked as Exhibit T5.
Can you put it on the screen, is the question?
Oh,
Might want to start.
let's start. Dear Supervisors, in accordance with the provisions of the Pennsylvania Municipalities Planning Code, the Berks County Planning Commission has reviewed the proposal to allow regional anaerobic digesters as a permitted conditional use in the effective agricultural preservation district pursuant to specified standards. The following comments are offered for consideration. General comments. Staff notes that this proposed amendment is referencing previous section numbering from the version of the municipal zoning ordinance prior to the codification of the ordinance in January 2025. Staff strongly encourages the municipality to thoroughly review this amendment and ensure all sections are properly referenced prior to adoption. 2. Staff recommends that the municipality review the proposed ordinance and ensure that it is not being exclusionary. Staff notes the following in relation to this. Romanet 1, Section 653, 1D3, quote, and the generation of a supplemental income stream to offset the high operational costs of farming and the fluctuations of farm commodity prices. Staff questions the validity of the applicant being able to provide sufficient data for this regulation to the municipality's satisfaction. Staff questions whether the municipality would deny an application for a regional anaerobic digester if a certain profit margin was not shown in a submission per this regulation. Staff questions if there is a clearer circumstance the municipality is looking for with this regulation. I'll note that that provision was in the, is currently in Ordinance 322. Section 653I-10. The maximum radius from which the regional anaerobic digester can procure manure waste produced off-site shall be 3 miles. Staff questions how this maximum radius was determined and questions whether it would be feasible for a regional anaerobic digester to function with this limit. Romanet 3, Section 653 1B7. The maximum range from which the regional anaerobic digester may procure liquid food waste shall be no more than 10 miles from the subject farm. Staff questions if this is overly limiting the applicant from bringing in the proper amount of food waste to maximize the digestion process. Romanet 4, Section 653 1D2. Staff believes the limit of vehicles 6,000 pounds or less allowed to utilize township roads for the purpose of accessing the regional anaerobic digester may be overly restrictive and should be further examined. 2 scenarios to consider are: 1, would emergency service vehicles be prohibited from accessing the digester because of this regulation? 2, What types of vehicles are needed to deliver supplies and services to the digester for its normal operation? And what is the average weight of those vehicles? A. Additionally, the township could consider including conditions that require payments or fees to help maintain municipal roadways that would be utilized for the regional anaerobic digester. Excuse me. Section 5, this is number 3. Section 5. Staff notes that there were 2 proposed amendments submitted at the same time to our office, this one and a separate one. Both amendments have the same definitions proposed for inclusion in the municipal zoning ordinance. Staff recommends that 2 separate amendments with the same definition not be adopted, but rather one amendment with the new definition is adopted to avoid redundancy. That issue will become moot if this ordinance is sent back to the Township Planning Commission. We'll delete the definition. Number 4, Section 5. Staff needs clarification about the differences between an anaerobic digester and a regional anaerobic digester. Furthermore, staff questions why the amendment is providing a district where regional anaerobic digesters are allowed by conditional use, but nowhere that anaerobic digesters are allowed by right, special exception, or conditional use. That's a construct that's currently in Ordinance 322, just for the board's edification or clarification. Number 5, Section 5. Staff recommends consideration be given to whether a definition of deep packaging facility, solid food waste, and liquid food waste should be added to this section. Number 6, Section 653IA. Staff questions what criteria were used by the municipality to set the minimum lot area for this use at 50 acres. Number 7, Section 653IB2. Staff notes the following. 1. According to the codified municipal zoning ordinance of January 2025, it appears that Section 425-35 of the Saldo is traffic impact studies. The section appears incorrectly referenced in this section of the proposed amendment. Number 2, without in any way limiting the otherwise applicable standards for traffic, this is a quote from the proposed amendment, without in any way limiting the otherwise applicable standards for traffic impact studies pursuant to Section 516, the scope of the study required pursuant to this section shall include, at a minimum, all intersections which non-passenger motor vehicles will utilize for travel to and from a regional anaerobic digester, end quote. Staff questions whether the municipality intended for this to be all intersections within Caernarvon Township. It is not, just for clarification, that was not the Planning Commission's intent. It would be all intersections. Number 8, Section 653(1)(b)(6). Staff recommends replacing the phrase inter alia with a clearer term that the general public could more easily understand. We'll do that. Number 9, Section 653(1)(d)(2). Staff questions the purpose of requiring an overall quote, an overall needed site size if the municipality is proposing to regulate the lot size and other design requirements within other areas of this amendment for regional anaerobic digesters. Number 10, Section 653(1)(e)(1). Staff recommends that consideration be given to ensuring the visual screens buffers required for a regional anaerobic digester do not take land out of agricultural production beyond the minimum amount allowed. Number 2, staff recommends that additional structures, buildings such as a depackaging facility be defined and added to the definitions section. Number 11, Section 653(1)(f)(2). Since the municipality is proposing setback requirements for certain uses, staff recommends consideration be given to including provisions for setback requirements from important environmental features such as wetlands, streams, etc. Number 12, Section 653(1)(f)(3). New driveways, parking lots, and stormwater facilities required for the regional anaerobic digester shall be a minimum of 20 feet from any property line and shall be designed to create four-way intersections with existing roads and driveways whenever physically possible, end quote. Staff needs clarification on how stormwater facilities fits into this regulation of creating four-way intersections with existing roads and driveways whenever physically possible. The Planning Commission's intent there was to obviously refer to driveways, not to the stormwater facilities. We'll clarify that. Number 13. Number 13 is simply advising the township of the Planning Commission's new address. And number 14 is a request that the municipality submit ordinances with track changes, which we will do. And then the conclusion and the signature on behalf of the Berks County Planning Commission by Mr. Lawrence.
Thank you for doing that.
So I'd like to speak again. My name's Skip DeGarry. My suggestion is, there's so much work put in by the community, by the planning board, and by the supervisors. And listening to this and looking at the changes that they requested consideration for on the first anaerobic digester regulation, that you pass this one tonight, and then if you want to consider these changes later, you can amend it again, just like you just did now. Yeah, that's all I got to say.
Anyone else?
Yeah,
Yes.
Kevin Hott, HOTT. What's the purpose of amending what we were going to originally vote on tonight? And I don't care if you have to go through each one. I'm curious why you guys want to amend. What didn't you like about the proposal tonight?
We're going to clean it up and we're going to,
What does cleaning up mean?
to what you just heard.
So you're going to implement all of that.
We're going to go back to planning and they're going to go through this.
Are we okay with that?
No.
They don't have to, they don't have to take anything.
Exactly, so why?
Regulation.
Why do you want to clean it up? We're not okay with this. Why are we delaying this?
We don't want to delay it.
Well, then why are we cleaning it up?
Vote on it, so it's right.
What, define right? I don't know what right is, because clearly we're not in agreement with this. So what does right mean?
I don't want to end up in court saying, oh, well, we didn't take the advice of Berks County.
Who says we have to? What regulation, hang on, what regulation out there tells us we have to follow their advice? How is that going to hold up in court if there's no regulation
That's why
saying?
the four of us are here to make a decision what's best for the township.
Okay, so you're worried about going to court, what are they going to sue you for? What ordinance or violation did you guys violate by not implementing their suggestions? Their suggestions.
Their suggestions.
So what are you worried about?
Because I want to get it done.
Okay, but you have a community here that is against a lot of the language in here. You don't care what we think?
Yes,
You're saying you don't care what we think?
I care what you think.
Okay, so why are you not hearing us out?
I am hearing you.
Okay, so why don't we approve tonight and have another hearing so we can thrash this out?
Anyone? Okay, yes.
It's Athena Clarkin, C-L-A-R-K-I-N. That's basically what he was stating and asking, like, what could they go against, like, what could they see from? That would be a question for the lawyer. So if no matter what, we could see for anything, we pass this, you're still, even anything we pass would still be susceptible to the lawsuit in any way, shape, or form. So this, what you've drawn up and you worked so hard at, gives us the best chance at holding the line for this and doing amendments later, correct? For the lawyer? Mr. Brown?
Look, I don't know that there's a full understanding of what the requirements are for an ordinance to be enforceable. There are requirements that the township must meet to ensure an ordinance is enforceable. And I don't want to get into a public setting what a landowner or an applicant can do to challenge the validity of an ordinance. I want to give a roadmap to that. But there are certainly avenues available to a to challenge the validity of an ordinance if it is, if there are certain phrases and sentences, provisions within ordinance that are not clear, unambiguous. And so I think that the board is appropriately concerned when it receives a letter from Berks County, would it be followed up? And I'm not suggesting or conceding that there's anything wrong with the current version as proposed. Certainly not. But I certainly would question anybody who thinks that there's no ability for a landowner to challenge an ordinance. There certainly is.
So if I may jump in.
In a general sense, without getting into specifics on this particular ordinance.
Yeah, if I may jump in on behalf of the Township Planning Commission. Those of you who were at the Township Planning Commission meetings when your Planning Commission discussed this will recall that there was discussion about minimum lot size, about setbacks, about radius for delivery. And without rehashing here that entire discussion, obviously your Planning Commission did not craft a proposed ordinance with the intention of being exclusionary. The Berks County Planning Commission has raised a question. They're not suggesting that the ordinance as proposed is exclusionary. They're simply suggesting that further analysis be done to ensure that it is not. Now, obviously, again, I'll say very clearly, your Planning Commission did not prepare a draft ordinance with the purpose of excluding this land use. The County Planning Commission would like to see that studied further.
Skip to Gary again. And I understand the process. So it gives an extra due diligence that they look over it again, do their planning, and possibly kick it back up the same way it is. But one of the things I said in that planning meeting, and why that to me, and I'm just Joe the Ragman, old retired federal agent, all that kind of stuff. But that's why my suggestion was you stick to the basics, which you guys pretty much did, and why I suggested not changing the different distances for the waste and stuff. Now, clearly, the board didn't do a little bit of due diligence to see it. Lancaster County already has this as established criteria in township regulations in their township. The planning board looked at all that and did not change, at least on some of this that they're bringing up, didn't change those distances, which to me seemed the appropriate thing because it's already established in this state as rule, as township law and township rule. Gives it more credence to me. I'm not pretending I'm a lawyer or any of y'all. So if that's what you got to do, everybody's said their voice, we'd rather do the X, Y, Z. You got to do what you got to do to protect the township. I get it. You know, we appreciate all your time and everything. We just voiced our opinion. It's a long process. I know in my case, I have a lot vested in this, and I really understand how the sausage is made. So I'd like to be here for all this. It's going to be impossible. I'm going to be out of the country, possibly when this is going on, in some hot, sandy, undesirable place. So I'm going to have to call in at best and try to have this same type of conversation, which I don't want to do. But I'll do what I got to do at this point, and y'all got to do what you got to do. I appreciate you taking the time to listen to us, but if due diligence you feel makes you safer, you're always, anybody in here can be sued anytime. And it's kind of, you get to a point that, to me, should start worrying more about the constituents and the taxpayers, and not about the big bad wolf that is going to threaten everybody with lawsuit. And one disadvantage to them to sue, because they don't want anybody to know how the sausage is made. And discovery on their end is not going to be good. They've been deceitful this whole process, not just to you all, to the Ag Preservation Board, to the DEP. They got a pattern. I'm not name calling and I'm not making false accusations. I've seen all the applications. All that stuff's going to come out if it goes to discovery, for what it's worth. And there's going to be a certain part of them that don't want to go that route. But y'all got to do what you got to do. I say I appreciate y'all. Obviously, it's all up to you at this point. Everybody spoke their voice. You guys know what's good for y'all. Thanks again for your time.
Hi, Valerie Schultz. I'm from Honeybrook Township. I was at the Planning Commission meeting, and I will tell you, there was a rationale for each one of those attributes that they put in that ordinance. So I'm kind of confused because you don't, when you're going to do the ordinance, you never put a rationale in the ordinance as to why you came up with the length of the setback, right? You always have that in your records to go back to if you're challenged in court, correct?
So the zoning ordinance has a general statement of intent. Each zoning district has a purpose and statement of intent, and the Planning Commission's recommendations are, I believe, consistent with those general policy statements. Again, the fact that the Berks County Planning Commission is suggesting that Caernarvon Township's Board of Supervisors more carefully analyze the ordinance. It's the Berks County Planning Commission's within their purview to make that suggestion, and I can't say whether it's right or wrong. We'll say I think it's probably a good idea for the Township Planning Commission to examine that further.
But they aren't privy to the conversation and the notes that were taken during that meeting.
That's correct.
And I think it was discussed at length, to make sure that they weren't too restrictive. There was a rationale given for each one of those distances and, measurements of where everything had to be, so.
So for instance, and again, I want to make clear a statement here that I made multiple times at the Planning Commission meetings. This ordinance is not proposed to preclude any regional anaerobic digester in the township. It's proposed to allow and regulate that use perhaps more tightly than is already the case under 322, but it's not proposed to preclude it. It certainly isn't proposed to preclude any one applicant from making an application for a regional anaerobic digester. That being said, the radii for where food waste could come from and where manure could come from, those were discussed. The food waste sourcing, I believe there's a municipality in Lancaster Township, Warwick Township, Lancaster County, which utilizes a 3-mile radius. The Planning Commission felt it was appropriate to borrow that suggested radius. The 6,000-pound limitation for trucks on township roads, the Township Planning Commission's conclusion and belief that that's an existing PennDOT regulation, so simply incorporating that. The existing ordinance does not, I'm just going through here generally, the existing ordinance does not regulate anaerobic digesters, but rather regional anaerobic digesters. The difference being that regional anaerobic digesters are co-digesters, and that's what the township has chosen to regulate. The increase of the minimum lot area from 40 acres to 50 acres was suggested to allow for the increased setbacks, given the fact that the Planning Commission is now recommending setbacks from what was discussed as sensitive land uses, such as nursing homes, hospitals, etc. So if you're going to have increased setbacks, the thought was to require increased lot sizes to accommodate that, and so on and so forth. So without going through each and every one of these, yes, these were issues that were discussed at the Township Planning Commission meetings. Does not mean that they don't warrant further study.
But I think that could be something you could provide to Berks County Planning Commission in response to this and say, does this satisfy your questions? Without having to go all the way back through the Planning Commission, because it's already been extensively discussed. These numbers weren't just pulled out of thin air.
He knows he did.
Again, this is the process, and that's really all I can say.
Okay, thank you.
I have another question. My name's Skip Gary. Eric, this is for you. Has your firm or yourself done any work for any BlackRock entity in any way at any time?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
Tim McEwen. I live in Elverson Borough, right next to fields that are farmed by the Kurtzes. My question, now, part of that, I get like with the wetlands for the setbacks for there. Okay, my question is, if we didn't make all this big stink, this would have been put through the way it was before, okay? Why all of a sudden now is Berks County Planning Commission questioning, oh, well, you want to set back this, well, now why, now they're concerned about the wetlands. Well, weren't they concerned about them before? Well,
So again, the process is that there is an existing ordinance on the books in Caernarvon Township. It's ordinance number 322.
Okay.
The Township Planning Commission suggested that the regulations that are in ordinance 322 be revisited and modified in certain ways. That is what is proposed here. As part of the statutory process for a municipality to adopt an amendment to its zoning ordinance, that proposed amendment, not 322, that's already on the books.
Right.
But the proposed amendments had to have been forwarded to the County Planning Commission. County Planning Commission has a statutory opportunity to review that. That's what they've done here, and they've issued this letter.
Okay, gotcha.
So they didn't just say, wake up one day and say, gee, we think we'll write a letter to Caernarvon Township.
No, I understand that part, yeah. But what concerned me was they were all okay with it before, okay? The Berks County Planning Commission was all okay before. If we weren't here, this would already been passed through, they'd have stuck it right under our noses. Not necessarily the Planning Commission, but the digester would already be here and go full bore, and then we'd be stuck with it. My concern is now is, why all of a sudden now are we concerned with some of it, which is okay, but, and then also, why can't you guys pass it with, you can always amend it later. Because you can be sued now, you can be sued later, you can be sued at any time. If you get it partway on here now we have something to go on, you know, you can always change it, say, oh, okay, yep, we can change that. I mean, they're not necessarily going to throw the whole thing out, you know, I wouldn't think, but they're going to question, no matter what we come back with, they're going to question it and say, hey, and that's their prerogative to do that, I'm sure, like you were saying before. But get something on the books. I mean, there is something on the books, but get this on the books. I mean, we're amending what was there before, now you can amend this later down the road. But it seemed like we put the time in, you guys put the time in, you definitely put the time in, and commend you greatly for that. But that was my kind of thoughts with, why can't we get on the book? No matter what, we can be sued at any time. I mean, and I understand what you're saying, you're trying to dot all the i's because you don't want it to get kicked back at us, but it's just suggestions. And I know that we got to try to follow the suggestions too, but get something on here a little better, closer for us. Because I'm just afraid that if something don't get on here tonight, they're going to put their application in, they know they can, and then it's out of the water again. You know? Yeah, they already knew, I'm sure of that. They got enough money behind it. They knew all this was coming at it before our meeting. That's why none of them are here, because they already knew what was going to happen. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
I'd like to speak on that.
We are begging you guys to protect us. Megan DeGarry, we are begging you to protect us in this community. What they're saying is true. Why not put it in effect? It can be amended just like we're amending 322. You are leaving us wide open for them to come in and stick their noses up at us and say, screw you guys. We're getting what we want. Why are they more important than we are? That's what I want to know. Paul, why are they more important than us? Jack, all you guys, no, it is, because they have, look, you guys have worked hard, but you gotta protect us, we gotta do the final push. We're here to support you, that is why so many of us came here tonight. We have your backs, but I feel like we're just rolling over because it's a big entity. We can fix the language, that's not a problem. You guys, anything can be amended, and I've seen other ordinances get pushed through so fast in this township. And this is way more important than a parking ordinance. This is about our health. This is about our families. I mean, I know, Mr. Brown, you want to protect this township, but we have to protect the constituents. We pay the taxes too, and we're all here putting in the time with you. So please consider us, and don't be scared to just do it. Thank you. And I do appreciate all your
Is this on? Yes. Hi, my name's Gail Cox. I live in Elverston Borough in Summerfield. There's some Summerfield people here tonight. I live about a mile from the farm. I was at one of the planning meetings, and I can tell you that they were meticulous. They went through item per item per item. I had like 3 pages of notes. I had a lot of questions, but I had 3 pages of notes. So I don't understand, were you coming here tonight ready and prepared to make a vote? And if you were, why are you doubting yourselves now? I don't understand what the doubting is. Do you trust your own planners of this township? So I don't understand what the holdup is. I understand you got this letter, but they were too late. They sent that letter, you said it was just recently. So again, I'm with everybody here about, I feel you should make your judgment call on the facts that you had coming in tonight with your planners and all the work they did. And like I said, I didn't come to every planning meeting, but the one that I was at, it was long, and they even had a second one, if I'm correct, because it ran so long. So I just wanted to put, I don't understand why you're doubting, and I feel like you probably already, have good information to make your judgment tonight. So that's all I wanted to say. Thank you for all the work you do, all of you.
It's Kevin Hott. I do want to echo what everyone has said. You guys do a great job, right? And I know we get worked up over this. I personally look at this project as bullshit, right? Because it jeopardizes everyone in this room. So I get a little worked up. You guys are doing a great job. So I want this really kind of on the record. I have the utmost trust that you guys are going to vote for the proposal tonight, and we'll do an addendum later, right? I think you've heard us. I think we've been very clear, and I trust that you guys will listen to us and take us up on that. But when we look at a vehicle weight restriction, and again, we'll talk about this when we do an addendum. Who's paying for that? The Berks County Planning Commission talked about fees being charged. Well, who's going to manage that? Who's going to regulate that? And that's a question. When you pulled up that proposal, they talked about having fees for certain vehicles over certain weight limits.
So Berks County Planning Commission
Correct.
Suggested that Caernarvon Township consider including in its ordinance impact fees for use of township roads.
Correct.
By trucks that are, this is not something that the Township Planning Commission has examined. We certainly can, the Township Planning Commission certainly can examine that. I will review whether or not that is something that is permitted under state law, and I will advise the Township Planning Commission accordingly, but that's not something that the Township Planning Commission has recommended.
Agree. Where's the board stand on that? You guys wanted to send it back with comments from the Berks County Commission. Where do you guys stand on that? Do you have an opinion at this point or no? Because, I'm a businessman, I run my practice, and the first thing that comes to mind is who in the hell is paying for that? Right? Who's going to pay those fees? Who's going to regulate those fees? There's infrastructure that's required to make sure that if we as a township agree at the planning commission at the supervisor level that we're going to have fees for vehicles over certain weights, who's managing that? Who's collecting those fees? We're not going to trust BlackRock to do that. They've been one of the most unethical companies that we've seen. So are we going to put that in PennDOT? Or am I missing something?
Respectfully, I think you are. Typically, in a land develop or land use application, impact fees would be assessed or imposed on the applicant as part of the approvals process. Then the applicant would pay those impact fees to the municipality. State law that regulates land use regulation is very specific about what kinds of impact fees a municipality can impose on an applicant.
Okay, but then maybe I misread that ordinance, but I thought that ordinance, they were recommending that there was fees for vehicles over a certain weight.
This is not an ordinance. This is a review letter from the County Planning Commission,
Okay.
which is reviewing what the Township Planning Commission has recommended. The County Planning Commission is suggesting that Caernarvon Township examine whether or not it would impose impact fees upon applicants for conditional use approval for regional anaerobic digesters. Right now, that is not something, unless I'm mistaken, that is not something that the township does. So again, the County Planning Commission is suggesting that the township should examine that, which if this does go back to the Township Planning Commission, I will take that up with the Township Planning Commission and we'll examine that.
Okay, and I don't want to take any more time, we can take it offline, but I think I'm still missing something, because again, I thought something over like 6,000 pounds, as I read on the screen, they were recommending assessing a fee for any vehicle over that weight.
They're suggesting that the township examine whether or not the township would want to incorporate such a fee structure into the ordinance.
Okay, that's my point. So that fee structure, who's paying for that fee structure?
Again, typically in a land use situation, it's the applicant that pays impact fees.
So it's only a one-time fee, it's not an ongoing fee for vehicles that violate that weight limit?
Yes, generally speaking, typically impact fees are a one-time assessment that are paid by the applicant for land use approvals.
So what if BlackRock violates the weight limits on
Again, we're not here talking about BlackRock or Vanguard or any individual user. The Planning Commission has not recommended this ordinance as a means of regulating any individual
Just in general.
applicant. This is an ordinance that proposes to regulate a land use. That could be Eric Brown proposes a regional anaerobic digester. It could be Michael Gill proposes it. It could be you propose it.
Okay.
This ordinance does not propose to regulate any individual applicant.
Okay,
This is
got
an
it.
ordinance of general application.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
Skip to Gary, I'm gonna say one more thing, and I will shut my mouth. But this stinks of nefarious, not on your guys' side, but I'm sure BlackRock's in here, and they would have been up here opposing this. They knew this outcome was coming. This stinks really of some type of nefarious something going on, and it really, really peeves me. I can't even, they could have been here they didn't come to almost none of these other meetings. They got a plan, and we're not supposed to be in that plan. I read all the back and forth with Eric Brown. As I said, I'm not gonna get into all that again, but the fact that all of a sudden, it's a shame. I'm done. Thank you for getting your time.
Nobody's asked me my opinion on this, but I'm going to offer it. I've known Eric for the better part of my career.
I'm not saying anything.
Any suggestion of any untoward conduct is, I feel very comfortable
I'm not
saying,
pointing
entirely in
at
this
it.
place.
I'm pointing at between Burks and BlackRock and whatever's going on. If I want to call Eric out, I'll call him out right here. I don't think in any way that Eric did anything nefarious with this. I think something nefarious is going on. They knew this outcome. I'm not blaming anybody on this board, and I'm not blaming Eric Brown. Period. I'm a big boy.
That's why none of them are here tonight.
No, I don't know that they're not here. They're not speaking.
Am I good to go, Skip?
Sorry.
Thank you. Senator Booth again. And I think I want to just provide that I do think there are two or three, in my humble opinion, that you didn't ask for. suggestions in that planning commission letter that could be incorporated, specifically the wetlands. And after I jotted that down, I also think that maybe there should be language in there that states about drinking water supply in terms of your setback. And that is, in my opinion, and also science's opinion, studies show that it's actually quite farther than 2,500 feet, but I won't. Something is better than nothing because of this area relying on well water. And I think that's the commonality, whether or not you support digesters or not. You know, I represent a very purple gerrymandered Senate district where the common ground is clean drinking water and clean soil and clean air. Those are three things that I have yet to tell me they don't want or think they need. So I think that's the frame as you sit up here in this very difficult decision-making process to keep your head at, is like, how do you protect that for everyone beyond your township lines, right? We all know water pollution, air pollution, soil pollution can go beyond arbitrary lines. Look at East Palestine, how it polluted Pennsylvania. So those are just things that you should be considering, because the other part of litigation is also that Pennsylvanians do have a right to clean air and clean water and clean soil, not just now, but for generations to come in our state constitution. So yes, of course, being sued by big, powerful corporations is very overwhelming. I can sit and we can shoot the breeze on that and exchange stories about that, because it is very stressful, but it's also not to be neglected that residents that aren't the landowner, yes, the landowner can sue you, the corporation, whoever, the company can sue you, but so can residents that live in this area for the impact. Just because you own land doesn't mean you get to develop it to harm your neighbors or harm people's water supply. So I just say that is that you can do those things and be within the law. And, you know, that's the Constitution, so that's the top, right? You can't, you know, a statute, whatever, municipal ordinance doesn't get to override the state constitution. And I think that you should pass this tonight. I think that it's very easy for you to set a date to come back and amend with the good parts that were in there. Like, even tonight you can pass, if you wanted to take and correct the order. I think one of the things cited in the letter was the order or numbering or something. That happens all the time in the legislature and or in other municipalities where it simply just said with the corrections and reference whatever part of that letter. If you want to reorder or renumber, you can do that. I think the people here understand that timing is essential in this climate and in this unknown of what's to happen next. And I think we all know, whatever side of the aisle you're on, there's a common agreement that trust in government is at like a -12 right now. And I can say that local government is where that trust is still some faith, and you have an extraordinary opportunity to keep what's left and restore some trust in government. And I know that pressure, it's hard. Not everyone agrees on everything, and you all work hard and try to do the right thing, and sometimes the things said to you are terrible. I totally understand. But I think that, this is a moment for you to utilize that kind of momentum with this room. These people came to show up. I got a text, please come to this. And I appreciate you letting me voice my concerns and my opinions, but also that, it would really erode the public trust if this doesn't get voted on this evening, and then before it is passed, a company, whoever it is, submits an application, and then everyone in this room is going to look around and say, we were right, we knew this was delayed for a reason. And after this state budget, if it ever passes, I'm happy to walk you through how all that went and tell you how corrupt it is. So I watched this stuff happen, and it's horrible, and you can't always stop all the bad things, but you guys are in this position of power where you get to make the decisions for the people that you represent and the people that are nearby. And so I just say that everything can be amended. You can set a date for your next special meeting, and at least there is something on the books to protect. And you can even add the drinking water supply in your amendment tonight, and just make a little brief edit. So thank you very much. Is there people invited tonight that are from companies that would be potential applicants, or is this just a public meeting? So there's nobody here from whatever, Vanguard? They didn't disclose it. Okay, I think there may be, but thank you.
I'm Virginia. Reger, R-E-G-E-R, and I, thank you. And I live right on Main Street, just above Athena's property and Twin Valley Firehouse. So there I am at the top of the hill. I've lived there for 23 years. I did not raise children here. I have raised children, but not here. I have voted for 50 years in every election. Every time I vote, my only consideration is how it will affect children. My only consideration is, will they be able to drink water safely? Will they be able to breathe safely? Will their school bus get hit because a road is too narrow and an intersection is poor? For 50 years, that's been my first thought. Then I went on to my adult concerns. I look out above my property and I see the firehouse. I worry how they're going to deal with whatever traffic there is. Athena's property, Twin Valley High School, the elementary school. I just can't imagine that we're going to put our future at risk. And I've lost a daughter, and I don't want anyone's child to suffer because of decisions made. And I just wanted to get that on the record. Thank you.
Gordon Donaldson, D-O-N-A-L-D-S-O-N.
What's your first name?
Gordon. Yes. I could go for hours on this. I'm obviously a physician in the area, Morgantown Family Practice. Most of you probably know me well. I'm here to support a community, the health of a community, okay? And it is my understanding, and I've spoken to legal counsel, and it's my understanding that the board has nothing to fear. You put the ordinance in place. When the ordinance is in place, then the onus goes back on them to make it look bad. We can all be sued. Been there, done that. Okay? I will say I have not lost. But have I been sued? Yes, multiple times. Okay? And so to put the ordinance in place, vote on it here tonight, and my understanding is if it was done under reasonable rationale, there you have everything to stand on, and you don't have anything to lose. You don't, just because it's a big company doesn't mean that you have to fear them. We all can fear the little mouse, you know. I mean, if we want to, we can fear the tick, you know. I have people that do that. But the size doesn't matter. You have the power, stand up to them. I've got your back. And if you want me to go for hours on the health negatives of this thing, I could. I've done talks on these things. That's what my whole practice is based on, is prevention. And what we have here, the potential, if this is not taken into account, is we have the health of the entire community. And I can tell you, as the lady said about the water, we have a whole water table that can be affected. And if you want me to give you the real quick lowdown on nanoplastics, I'll give you a quick lowdown on that. Okay? Nanoplastics, PFAS, the forever chemicals that are in our environment. Most of us sitting here, because of the nanoplastics, have a credit card worth of nanoplastics in our brain. Okay? So what we have here is the quick lowdown. They bring in this biodigester. They bring in the stuff from anywhere and everywhere, has all kinds of nanoplastics, goes into the ground, goes into the water supply, has the potential, gets into the crops go into the cows give the milk, and you're drinking the milk with nanoplastics in it. And it is the number one cause. It is one of the number one causes now that we know of cardiovascular disease, and that's the whole basis of my practice. So I don't understand why we don't stand up, make the vote. We can always do the amendments later, but my understanding is if the township will stand up, do the right thing, and you did it in a reasonable way, and these are only suggestions coming down from the county, then let's do what's right. We got your back. I simply say, you have our back. Please. Thank you.
I have one more brief comment to make. One thing Ginny Marcel Kerslake, West Whiteland Township. One thing that became abundantly clear to everyone in this room, all of you included, during the past several months, is that our federal and state regulations for this kind of use are inadequate in protecting communities. We heard over and over again from Vanguard Renewables that they will be diligent in following the regulations that are in place. And we know they're not. You have a wonderful opportunity tonight to put those protections in place. This is a very powerful opportunity you have here. And you have that moment right now because there is no application on the table. There is nothing stopping someone from coming in and giving you an application tomorrow while you delay to consider these amendments or these suggestions from the county, which you could do at a later date after passing this tonight. If you pass it tonight, those protections are in place. You might not have that opportunity again.
Anyone else?
Jim Turbush from Elverson. A lot of work went into creating this new amendment. And the whole reason we're here tonight is because 322 is such a flawed amendment. And we need something in place to protect the community. 322 was passed over a year ago before we knew anything about this proposal. And even before you knew very much about the proposal. At that time when it was passed, no one knew that Vanguard was proposing a industrial-sized facility that would be bringing in over 100,000 tons of food waste a year. No one knew that they were going to have an open-air lagoon the size of 2 football fields that would generate 20 million gallons of liquid garbage a year that would be spread on fields in our area and get potentially into our groundwater. We didn't know that, but the ordinance was passed. And that ordinance was created largely with the help of Vanguard. They gave the Planning Commission the blueprint for at least 50% of that ordinance. And it would allow them to put the facility that they wanted on that property. And that's not a good way to write an ordinance. So that's where we are right now. If you do nothing else tonight, I would recommend that you repeal 322. And then if you need another couple weeks to do your due diligence and make corrections that would make it even better. If repealing 322 would prevent a new application from being submitted, then I think that's what you should do tonight. Thank you.
Jonathan Ruggiero. I'm a resident of Elverson. I have been in this school district since 1990. I wanted to stay here because my family had built generations here, and I love it here. I have a 9-year-old daughter who goes to Valley Elementary School. So I asked you that you make decisions based on if this affected your own child, as if they were right there. We all have a duty to protect our children. I will die on my feet doing that. So this proposed digestate causes risk to my child's health, and that's unacceptable to me. So I would appreciate if you would fight like hell to protect our kids, because they are our future. Thank you.
Anyone else? No one? Okay. Anything else, Eric?
Legal questions, you should probably call an executive session.
Legal questions?
Yes.
Have an executive?
Are you sidetracked? They're all about. Me, they're great. Thank you. It's always good to ask
So she got me.
All the meeting back to order. We're going to take a vote. We have a motion.
I'd like to make sure, I was born and raised here in Morgan County, and I want to make sure everything's right. And one of the things that was brought up tonight was water, and I know that wasn't in that meeting, but it made me feel like it's in there. Okay? But I think we're going to talk about it. I think we're going to get sued no matter what. So I think I'm going to make a motion to accept this tonight.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Stand no. Yeah. Okay. So we're
gratitude, thank you.
Thank you. We're asking that this still goes over to planning, and that the water situation that was brought up be included in planning, their minutes or their notes to look at. So anything else you want to add? Staff, anything to add? See, anything to add?
Go over everything that was.
So we get started on that as soon as possible.
Well, I will be in touch through Heather with the planning commission members, and we'll make sure that that, amongst other things, certainly things that the planning commission discusses.
Okay, thank you. Gary?
Did you actually make a motion and second and vote?
Yes. Nothing further. You want to close hearing? Officially close?
And we can reflect it, hearing is closed. And Madam Chair, you can make a motion to adjourn.
Okay, do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.